So we've done the retopology, we've created our UVs, and we've transferred the texture from our scan data to our mesh. Now we should be ready to go ahead and just transfer this over to Mudbox so we can go ahead and do some embellishments. So in order to do that, we'll just select the mesh, we'll go up to our main menu section, export, and we're going to do export selected. If you go through the regular export, you won't have options to export only selected. You can only do it just by clicking there. So here we'll go ahead and just export 3ds to MB. Yes, we'll override that, and the defaults should be fine. Just default settings, but if we go ahead and look within the FBX exporter, there are no options here to export only selected, and that's important because we have our scan data that we created, and we also have some older meshes that are in this scene that we don't want to import into Mudbox. So here we're in Mudbox, and I'm just going to import 3ds to MB. And we're going to get a few errors. These are a few things that Mudbox really is in particular with, and we'll go ahead and see how to correct these and how it's going to impact us when we're creating our when we're working on our sculpt. So here we're just talking about poles here. High valence vertices. We have 2 in the nose. Mudbox really doesn't care too much for these guys, but more importantly, the interior vertex valence to this guy right here. This is going to be a big one that we're going to have to go ahead and fix, as well as our UV faces crossing. So these are things that you may come across. There are definitely more errors that you can come across that you can see, but we'll see how we fix these particular errors, and hopefully that'll give you some insight on how to fix different errors that come up. So we'll keep this mesh. And there are more ways that you can export your geo. Right now it's saying that it was having a difficult time loading the texture in here, but we'll look at the material later. Right now I'm in wireframe, and we can see kind of through the geometry a little bit. So if I hit W, we won't have that issue, but you can see that we see the poles here, but we kind of have a projection of the texture in place. That's all right. First things first, let's go ahead and see what errors we come across when we try to subdivide our geometry. So when we hit Shift D, we get a subdivision error. We can't even subdivide our geometry with that second error that we had, and we have 10 occurrences here. So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight affected edges, and then now if we go ahead and zoom in here, we're able to see, if I hit W, which areas are affected. So you get to see some of these errors are symmetrical. So we probably have 5 instances on each side of the face. So we have 2 here, 1 here, a lot of them in the ear. So we have a few in the ear that we need to fix. Yeah, and a few in the ear over here. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we can do in order to fix this within Mudbox, or within 3CD Max. So the easiest thing to do to identify the problem is use the highlighted feature to direct you to where to look within Max, so you can see what exactly the error is dealing with. So we'll go back to Max here, and we'll try to go to that same position. Alright, so we'll come to the same area, and we'll look for that section, and I think it has to do with these guys right here. I have this vert that's in place, and yeah, so this is just a vert that's here, that's hanging out, and it needs to be cleared. So if I just hit Control Backspace here, you get to see that it clears that up, and I just want to see if I were to export this again, if that error is reduced by 1. And if that's the case, I identified what the issue is, and now we need to find a we have 10. We need to find a quick way to identify and find these, because going back and forth between the scenes really isn't that efficient. Isn't it an efficient way to solve the problem? So we got that. We'll just re-import the scene. Yep, we'll keep the mesh. Cool. So we'll go ahead and try to subdivide. And yes, we identified the problem. The problem is having a vert in the middle of an edge that that's not really creating anything. So if we go back to Max here, we'll find an interesting way to solve this issue, or at least identify where the problem lies. So if we go ahead and in our edit poly modifier here, we'll go to selection within our ribbon, and there should be some tools here. Now, looking at the issue, looking at the problem that we had, it was a vert kind of in the middle. Let's see if we can find that other one here. Yeah, so it's this vert that's just hanging out right here in the middle, and that's going to give us two 5-sideds right next to each other. So that's going to be the pattern to look for, and we can actually utilize this by numeric tool. So if we go ahead, equals 5 edges. Actually, let's do polygon. So equals 5 sides. We'll select that, and you get to see it finds the problem here. It finds them here, but if you look at the pattern specifically, it's two 5-sideds that are next to each other. So we're not looking just for 5-sided faces. We're looking, at least for right now, we're looking for two 5-sideds that are adjacent to each other, and that's going to identify the issue. So like this one would be that that vert in the middle. So if we hit 1 on our keyboard, there should be a vert here. So if we hit 4 again, it's right here. So what we'll have to do, this is probably an instance where we had two verts that are on top, and there it is. So sometimes it may not be very easy to spot, but you know, if you use the filter, it's going to be an easier, a much easier journey to find the problem. Okay, so we'll come here, we'll hit 1, and we're running into that issue again, where they're just sitting right on top of each other. Control backspace, so we cleared up another one, so that was 2. Just hit 4. That's 5. 6. And you get to see that those vertices, they're actually lined up to a lot of these red portions here. So we can probably use that as a guide as well, at least in this instance. So if we come into here, we can probably assume that there's going to be 1 right here. So we hit 4, yep. Clean that up. Come up here. Clean this one up. Okay, I'm not really seeing any more, so there might be some on the inside of the geo, like in the mouth area. So what we can do, we can hit F3 and see what we can find. We do have something here. Just select just that one section and just zoom in, Control Alt. Okay. Let's go ahead and just change this. Let's see here. There we go. So we're orbiting around this particular section. And we'll go back to our filter. We'll make sure we go and select. And I can see the issue. They're just bam, right down the middle here. So we'll select these guys. Clear those up. Let's make sure that we're on our polygon. And this looks a little strange, so let's try to reorganize this and see if we can make more sense out of that. Yeah. So I'll just select and remove that out, or maybe even a collapse. So we'll go ahead here. We'll collapse and delete. There we go. Much better. So let's see if that cleared out this section. Okay. So I think we're mostly cleaned up. So this is a good spot to see what mudbox says about the mesh. And make sure we do export selected. Okay, so we'll just make a new scene. Don't save. Just open up this, and you get to see that middle error is gone. So now we have only these two errors to clean up. They should be pretty easy to clean. So we'll go ahead inside the nose and just leave a border edge inside the nose, and then we'll do the same thing for the UV. Or not the same thing, but clean up the UV. I'm just going to delete the mesh and go to max. Okay, so this should be fairly simple to clean. So we'll just hit 4. Just zoom in here, and I'm going to change my selection. We'll grab like this raycast selection here. Grab all these faces in the middle, just delete that. I'm going to do the same thing to the opposite side. Just like that. We'll hit Z to zoom in. Grab all these guys. Delete. Okay. And deleted the top of the head, so let's see if we can fix that up a bit. And then we'll just deselect these guys. Cool. So with that, we'll hit delete. Hopefully that error is clean, and then now we just need to fix up our UVs. So I'm just going to make a new unwrap UVW modifier here, and then we'll open up our UV editor. And then yeah, we can see this is where the issue is, and just about all 3D projection packages hate it when you cross when one shell crosses multiple UV islands. So we'll go ahead and select element, bam, and then we'll just come down. Right here. So we're clean there, and we're clean on the top. Beautiful. Cool. So now we're ready to export. Export selected. So now that we're exported, we'll file, open up, and see if we get all the same errors. At least, okay, so we'll keep the mesh, and then we'll see where else we'll have this issue. So the UVs are at least clean, and the high up. It looks like I didn't do this side. So we'll come back here and just make sure we clean up this last portion. Yes, come on, poly. And then we'll grab that, make sure we're not selecting anything else. Delete. Alright, and we'll just export again. Okay, so don't save. Open you up. Uh-oh. Okay, give me a break here. I mean, for the most part, you get to see how this works. I'm just going to delete this and just make a new unwrap UVW modifier. Open UV editor. Bring it down. Oh yeah, and that's going to be an issue. You know what, I'm just going to, instead of moving everything, what I could do, I can easily just move everything down and then just reproject, but more or less that's what I would do, but just for this example, I'm just going to move to one vert. There we are. So we brought that down. That should clean everything up for us. File, export, selected. Yep. And we should have a moderately clean scene. Now, the mesh doesn't throw any errors. Now, the last thing that you should be aware of is when you're working within mudbox, it's really an application that prefers all quads. It's not going to yell at you, but a lot of the brushes may not work correctly, and then even when you subdivide and you do something like a smooth, you might see your topology kind of jitter a little bit. So The last thing you should probably do is either subdivide your base mesh before you bring it into mudbox, and then and that should quad everything out for you. So let's go ahead and just hit W. We'll hit Shift D in order to subdivide. We're actually able to subdivide, and I'm just going to go hold down B and then hold Shift just to smooth things out, and it doesn't seem like I'm getting any major errors here. I have seen it where it really doesn't like non-quadded mesh, but for the most part we're pretty good. So we have a mesh that's good and ready to go to work within mudbox.